Boa noite, bem-vindo à live do BBI of Chicago. Aqui é Luiz Priolli, o diretor da instituição. Estou aqui acompanhado de Gabriel Gomes e de Rahul Panga. Bem, essa live aqui, como nós falamos, essa live vai ser em inglês, porque estamos aqui com um gringo e a gente precisa conseguir entrar na cabeça dele para entender melhor sobre como que a gente consegue entender esse cenário internacional, dessa competição, dessa guerra entre IAs, que a gente tem as IAs nos Estados Unidos e agora tem as IAs na China, aquele DeepSeek, mas como no final das contas isso beneficia a gente, nós brasileiros aqui no chão, que estamos com as nossas empresas, com os nossos desafios, como que a gente pode usar toda essa competição a nosso favor. Lembrando que você pode continuar aqui no chat, mandando suas perguntas em português, que depois, quando a gente for entrando em perguntas, ou até mesmo enquanto a gente estiver conversando, eu vou lendo, e eu posso até já fazer essas perguntas, eu traduzo elas aqui em inglês para o Rahul, para o Gabriel, e nós vamos todos conversar. Mas é muito importante, gente, cada vez mais a gente vê que, por mais que você seja bom nas suas competências comportamentais, a tecnologia, ela ainda tem um peso muito grande na sua produtividade, na sua eficiência, na sua eficácia. Por isso que agora a gente está cada vez mais dando um passo aqui no BBI, muito com a participação do Gabriel, que muito obrigado por fazer essa ponte, para consolidar você como um líder que domina competências comportamentais, sabe se portar, vira uma pessoa, uma people person, como a gente fala, né, que é uma pessoa de pessoas, que sabe lidar bem com as pessoas, tomar decisões, falar em público, e assim como você consegue usar IA para solucionar problemas complexos, problemas repetitivos, diversas áreas na sua empresa e cada vez mais virar uma pessoa valiosa que agrega muito onde quer que você esteja. Então, sem mais delongas aqui, para a gente já poder entrar nessas cabeças brilhantes, eu vou fazer aqui, vou introduzi-los aos nossos convidados, que são Rahul Panga is the co-founder and CEO of Rapid Canvas, an innovative AI platform established in 2023, dedicated to democratizing data science by simplifying AI integration for businesses. Então, o Rapid Canvas, ele simplifica muito toda essa parte complexa de tecnologia para as pessoas trabalharem. Previously, Rahul co-founded Simility, a pioneering fraud prevention and risk management platform leveraging machine learning, which was successfully acquired by PayPal in 2018 for $120 million. Following the acquisition, he served as vice president of risk strategy at PayPal until 2021. Earlier in his career, Rahul held leadership roles at Google, notably as director of trust and safety, where he spearheaded global teams combating fraud across Google products. Rahul began his professional journey at General Electric, focusing on smart grid software development. He holds an MBA from the University of Michigan, Stephen M. Ross School of Business, and a master's in electrical engineering from Clemson University. Also, you're both electrical engineer masters. And Gabriel Gomes, as I have introduced you guys for the other live on panel that we did. Gabriel is the LATAM data science leader at Rapid Canvas, an AI platform focused on empowering businesses with accessible artificial intelligence solutions. And then he also employs that technology to the founding partner at Genesis, his consultancy specializing in implementing AI-driven projects for prominent companies such as ONS, Anvisa, CPFL, EDP, and many others. With an extensive experience in artificial intelligence since 2012, desde 2012 ele está mexendo com inteligência artificial. Gabriel holds a PhD. Gabriel holds a PhD. very, very young, very young. Already 4 kids in. Gabriel holds a PhD in engineering with a focus on AI systems and a master's also, such as Rahul, in electrical engineering. Thank the two of you so much for being here and being open for us to talk, to bring more AI conversations to executives and leaderships here in Brazil. And when we listen, Rahul, this one is for you. When we listen to the international fight, let's say the competition between AIs that only we had before, let's say for the public, right? I know it's not only, but mostly what popularized was ChatGPT in the United States, and then you associate AIs with the United States, and then suddenly you get DeepSeek popping out from China, and I feel like there should be a few others, European ones and so on. what trends in this global AI arms race do you think Brazilian businesses need to closely follow to not stay behind?
Yeah, no, thank you. First of all, thank you for hosting us, and um, both me and Gabriel.
It's my pleasure.
What one thing um, we should start with is like AI has been around for like 30, 40, 50 years, right? Machine learning, algorithms, models, they've been around for a long time. Gabriel's worked with them since 2012. I've worked at Google. Um, and so AI is not new. Artificial intelligence, models making decisions instead of humans, that's not new.
Mm-hmm.
The current wave of AI we are seeing is generative AI. And that awareness of AI was caused by ChatGPT, right?
I see.
And the technology underlying all of that, right, GPT, which is like transformers, that was what Google used before. So
Mm-hmm.
if you look at emails and it suggests you how to respond to the email and things like that, they were starting to use that in like very small capacity. But essentially what OpenAI did is it took that technology and made it very consumable for average people, right? And that's what put this in the forefront of everybody, right? Hey, just you can ask it a question and it comes back with an answer, or it generates images and it creates videos and with just prompt, right? So that democratization of AI is what happened, right, in 2022 and November 22, and public knowledge about that. So that was the moment where you went from being a technology that was the very big companies, financial services, tech companies had, to like pretty much everybody having access to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of technology, right? Like as things become more accessible, more and more people use it, more and more creative things can be done. Um, Now, immediately once that happened, typically what has happened in technology is you have one player who becomes like really big. Maybe the first player, maybe not, right? So, for example, in search, it's Google, and like social, it's Facebook, right? Like somebody becomes very big and it's very hard to catch up because they have some advantage in terms of technology, right?
Mm-hmm. The network effect works for them, right?
Yeah, the network effect worked for them. The first mover advantage works for them. And suddenly all the money goes to them, right? They get tons more money, and it's very hard to keep up, when somebody's raised that much money, right?
Fair enough.
But in this case, there is always two or three players. So the big guy is fighting this battle. You had OpenAI, which allied itself with Microsoft. Then you had Google, who had Gemini and their own infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
which they had been working on, right? Um, and then some of the people from OpenAI left and formed Anthropic, right? Which then AWS connected with Anthropic. And then, of course, Facebook has to throw its hat in the ring. So they are using Llama, right? So then you had this phase where, like, hey, you need a lot of money. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have lots of GPUs and lots of money and lots of compute power and lots of smart engineers and data scientists, this is not a game anybody can play. Okay. So it's almost like that race is over. We know the top players in the race, that race is over, right? It's done. The foundational models, we know the big guys, they have a lot of money, they're going to go at it. And then suddenly you have, like, December of last year at Christmas, you have this sort of, somebody says, oh, there's a company in China called DeepSeek, right? And they're doing a model, and so on and so forth. And suddenly they come up with a very clever idea, right? This is again another beauty of technology. You don't have to be the richest, you don't have to have the most resources, right? They didn't have access to the unlimited GPUs, they didn't have access to large tech talent teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think smartly, you have to think differently, right? So then DeepSeek came up with their own model, and I'll leave, Gabriel can explain all the things about distilled models and distillation techniques. I'm not a technical guy, this guy. But the business lesson from that is when everybody is thinking one way and they think the game is over, there are some people who are thinking the game is not over. It has to be played a different way, right?
I see.
And constraint become your advantage, because if you don't need the same amount of GPUs, you can play a different game. You don't have to spend the same amount of money. You don't have to use the same kind of chips, all of that. And now with DeepSeek, everybody now sees, oh, there is another way to approach this problem. So a lot more companies will attempt, right? You will not, that's not the end of it. So
I
now we
see.
have, so that's the way to look at sort of the players, right? The key players in the foundational models. The other way to look at this is like the technology stack, right? NVIDIA forms the base of all of this, right? Which is the chips, the hardware. The
Mhm.
data center folks, like Azure and AWS, they form the compute layer, the storage layer. Then you have the foundational models, right? All the LLM players that form on top of it.
Uh-huh.
But the actual fun of this is the application layer. How do you use this to make it relevant to business? Are you
How do
using
you
this to
create
create
as
sales
adoption from
agents
what?
and support agents? Are you used to forecast demand? Are you used to find better leads for your retail company? I think what all this investment has done is now opened up a way for anybody to build any AI. Like everybody can build an AI app in like 10 minutes, right? All you need is an idea. You can just access any of these tools and you can build a new app. That's the beauty of all of this, right? It makes it possible for anybody to build a business, to build an application and go sell it. You just need a good idea. You just need creativity. You need to know how to sell it. You need to have understanding of the problem. Um, and it's going to be a massive wave. We are just starting, right? Just starting. You're starting to see a lot of agents, and we'll talk about this in more detail. But this whole application space, it's called agents, right? And what does agents mean, and how it's going to transform business and everything. But that's like the broad picture of the landscape of players and technology and evolution and all of that. I know, Gabriel, you should add to it because you're much closer to this than I am.
No, man, I agree completely with you, right? I mean, for most of us, doesn't matter if DeepSeek, ChatGPT, or any other of these companies is going to win the war. The point is that they created many opportunities for us, right? Now we can use all of this technology that's available from many players to like optimize processes, create new opportunities, new business, and so on.
So let me see if I
So
get this straight. The what they bring about this trend is that they break this paradigm that you needed a lot of GPU to do something. So DeepSeek apparently, as you said, is manages to do that with much less, CPU power, GPU power. And given that the trends are into servicing and creating AI solutions so you can actually service people on another layer. So that's where the real Red Sea, let's say the fight is at. So let me get to the end customer. Let me create something useful. Let me turn all that, let's say intelligence into a business. That's the main trend that we can look at.
Absolutely.
yeah, man, a model is like a hammer, right? What you're going to do with the hammer you have, You can have
It's
better
a good
hammers at
example.
least, but you can also that's the point, right? We have many models available, but the value is in what we do with the models we have. And that's what
I see.
Raul is saying. With the idea of agents, we can take all of these models and create many wonderful things, right? And when I talk about wonderful things, I'm talking about automating processes that couldn't be automated in the past because they were too complex to be automated.
Yeah, just one thing before I proceed. Let me say something em português. Mas você que está aqui assistindo a gente, né, você ficando até o final, esse painel ele gera, né, um certificado de presença que você pode usar na sua faculdade, em diversos outros cenários, tá? Então, no finalzinho, a gente vai soltar aqui uma lista para você marcar sua presença e conseguir esses créditos de hora. Now, back at it, you say that they automate solutions, they could you bring us a few examples, Rahul and Gabriel, let's say in the United States, of competitive advantages that you have developed into companies with your AI solutions? Let's say, and if you could exemplify the kind of company, this kind of sector that you went in and I brought around this solution. And in Brazil, we use this sector and we brought about this kind of solution. So, people can actually have an actionable direction in thinking, hey, what can I solve with AI?
Gabriel, do you want to go first since you're closer to the Brazil market?
Man, I think from my point of view, you could start talking about like the project in Djibouti, because we have this democratization of AI application around the world with this advent of Gen AI.
In Djibouti, Africa.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Replicam is doing a really nice project there that Raul can explain more about. I mean, it's an awesome project that before it wasn't possible,
I see.
Yeah,
what is it about?
The way to think about this, right? Before you had this generative AI, building AI solutions was very expensive. You needed very high-end models, very sophisticated PhD. Like you need 20 Gabriels to do anything, right? Very, very sophisticated PhDs. And what that meant was that like you had industry was like in two segments, like haves and have-nots, right? Like the big tech companies has lots of data scientists, lots of technology, lots of infrastructure, all of that, right? So they can do things. And if you're a retail company, if you're a manufacturing company, and you're a regional player, you're not a big Fortune 500 company, you don't have access to all this, right? Because guess what? Like the PhDs, either you can afford them or they're not going to come work that. They're going to go work at Itaú or Google or what have you, right? So what this does is it makes it much more accessible to the companies that were before that had a hard time using AI, right? Because of the talent and the infrastructure. So for example, Gabriel mentioned about Djibouti, right? You're an infrastructure, right? Roads, ports, logistics, transportation. You have all this data, right? Like how many containers are coming in, how many miles you're driving, and so on and so forth. Now, before, to take this data and make it some kind of meaningful information was very hard because you couldn't do it. Now, for example, one of the projects he talked about in Djibouti is like, how do they do road maintenance, right? You actually have cars on the road going all the time. So the entire country, right? They have some their Jeeps or cars, whatever. So right, they literally just fit like GoPro on the car or like a camera. They capture video of all the roads. And then AI reviews the videos and tells them where the maintenance needs for the roads are. Now imagine if you have to do this without AI. They have to drive, somebody has to write down, like then they have to collect all the data, then they have to say, okay, somebody go check this. Right now, the camera is already on the car that already goes on that road. It captures every single part of the country. That data gets fed in, and AI knows what to look for, how like a pothole looks, how like a crack in the road looks, how like a break in the road looks.
I see.
And every time it sees the image, it says, this road, this corner, this location, here is an image. So they can do in minutes what probably would have taken months before, right?
And we're not talking about US, right? We are talking about a small country in Africa, right?
Yes, Djibouti.
Right? And it's accessible, it's affordable, right? It's like 80% cheaper than what it used to be before. You can develop things 10 times faster than what you used to be. Like it's fast, it's cheap, everything, and
it
most
checks
of
out.
people can be self-service, right? And we have a company in Brazil called MT Thompson, right? They manufacture auto parts. So they have a supply chain. They import from Germany. They import parts from China, from US, locally in Brazil. Every part has a different time of arrival, right? Like the lead time to order. It takes 6 months to plan. So you can build your part based on the raw material. And then they sell to everybody. They sell in Brazil. They sell outside of Brazil, everything. So now you have many different distribution points and you have many different supply points. How are you going to plan how many parts you need, how much raw material you need? All like before you did that by hand, right? On Excel, right? Oh, 10% more. I should. So sometimes they have more parts and sometimes they have less. Sometimes they run out of parts, but they can't really predict, right? Now with AI, they're able to precisely predict what is my demand, how much do I need to stock, when do I need to order. It's all automated. Before, they had teams of people doing this and they would get it wrong. And now, like with AI, it's like very easy, like it's automatically calculated.
Wow.
And
it's based on their previous data.
It's based on historic data,
on
right?
Previous data, historic data, yeah.
And they don't need a data scientist to run this. They just need maybe like one product manager or one supply chain analyst who's smart enough to understand the business to know how to run this all the time, right? That's the beauty of, you don't need to be PhD data scientist, right? The PhD data scientist can help you initially put all this together, but once it's in a good place, you can take this and run with it, right? Which is the beauty of where AI is today.
And I suppose that's where your company comes at, right? So it makes all this data science complex into an usable interface.
Correct.
For, let's say, all kinds of people to actually operate them on their daily basis. You don't have to set it up, but you can also operate on something that's very complex. I say you don't have to be a car manufacturer to drive a car. I would suppose the thinking is similar, right? You just have to know how to drive. And
Correct.
that's very interesting. So that's an example here in Brazil that you could bring. For instance, the what is it called? The car parts company, and you have the infrastructure company in Djibouti. What kind of other solutions can your AI solutions bring about?
So retail, right? Like how do you segment your customers? How can you, if you have a website, you're trying to provide them with like recommendations. How do you provide recommendations? How do you know who's going to churn? What's the lifetime value for customer? All these are AI solutions, right? So retail is another big area, just like manufacturing and infrastructure. Energy, wind turbines, right? Like to repair a wind turbine, which is on top of a hill, after it breaks down, means power is not being supplied. Now you have to bring a big part from somewhere. It takes months, days, I don't know how long. But if you can predict, this is where Gabriel's expertise comes in, right? We can predict 30, 40 days in advance which turbine is going to have a fault or failure based on historic information, right? So energy, right? Energy, infrastructure, retail, manufacturing. These are areas where typically you don't think AI is going to be the first thing you think about, right? But these are industries that will benefit a lot from AI.
Gabriel sounds like an oracle. He can predict everything.
I try, man. I try. I'm trying to predict how many kids I'm going to have, but it's still complex for me. I'm not a really good AI.
You can't base it on historic data.
Yeah. If I draw a trend, a forecast model, it seems that I'm going to have 30. Let's see.
Yeah. But I mean, that's very interesting. But one thing that I catch from what you guys are saying, that I guess it's like where the company is actually going after, rapid canvas. But you say about big companies, and let's say you have a small company. You have let's hear Brazil called PMEs, like pequenas e médias empresas, medium and small companies. No, small SM. I think in English is SME. SME. Yeah. How can they use rapid canvas? Can they do something, like no code, low code solutions? Are there other ways that people, besides just using ChatGPT, creating images, are there ways for people to automate processes by themselves, maybe, instead of just complex solutions?
Yes, right. So, and I would break it down, right? There are decent sized businesses, right? Large businesses, but not large enough to be like Fortune 500, right?
I see.
Now, those require more sophisticated solutions like predictive maintenance or forecasting and things like that. And for those businesses, you need to have a certain size and certain amount size of business and certain amount of data to actually have the ROI on every one of these problems.
That's fair.
right? So that's one category, right? This is where we invest our time with these size businesses. Now, if you are, let's say, I am a small shop, right? Uh, AI is now pretty accessible to me. So let's say I'm gonna start a new restaurant, right? Okay, I need a logo. I don't have to go and ask anybody for the logo. I'm just going to type, my restaurant is going to serve this kind of food. It's going to have this kind of theme. Create me a logo. It'll create your logo. And it's like, hey, restaurants like me in the world, what kind of menu should I set up? And what kind of drinks and food should I make as a combination? It's going to spit like, you don't have to be a certain size business. Like, it's going to help everybody, right? Before, how are you going to research what menu do you have to have, or like what what kind of combination of food and drinks, and how do you create this how do you create the logo, how do you do research on where are the wholesalers for this, like all of these things where you have to do a lot of research, where you need a lot of intelligence. You can now just ask a chat interface, right? And it has a lot of information for you to start looking at. So it's pretty much anybody from a consumer to a small business to a medium-sized business to like really large tech companies. Like, AI is equally accessible to everybody now, right? And it just is a question of do you have the motivation and the creativity to go spend some time doing this, right? It's not a question of do you know how to code or anything anymore. Like, it has become so simple. You just need to be creative and smart and motivated. That's it.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because we usually say it's hard to incentivize, let's say, Brazilian companies to become, let's say, a challenger on the international AI landscape, because AI is not about what I think, and I think you can add on to that. You don't become, and it's not all companies are going to become AI companies. I guess that's not the trend, right? You're just going to use AI as a tool, as, let's say, companies did not become Excel companies. They just use Excel as a tool to do everything else, but they still have another business model, let's say.
That's a great example, right? Like, at some point when the internet came, everybody had to learn how to market and sell online. Doesn't mean you're an online company, but you had to have an e-commerce presence.
Yeah, but remember when everyone was a mobile company?
Right? Mobile, right? Like, when you're mobile, you have to have an app if you're selling. You can't say, I'm not going to sell using an app. I'm only sell in a store. That doesn't work, right? So it's the same way. AI is a trend. It's extremely beneficial to business. You have to find a way how you benefit best from it. Just like internet, just like cloud, just like mobile, AI is also an important component of your business. The only thing is, if you think it's going to go away, it's not, right? The sooner you adapt it, the sooner you adopt it, the sooner you adapt to this, the better you're going to get the benefit from it, right? That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if you want to say something, Gabriel?
Yeah, no, do you remember that I talked to you that I was playing bowl? I mean, last week or something like that. And then I started talking to the manager of the place, and I don't remember why. And then he told me that he's going to open like 3 more stores, and he's going to have AI in everything. You see, even like bowl is going to have AI. So it's like kind of spreading, because you have like many solutions nowadays that you can use for, like, as how said, to create logos, to create optimized agendas, to create like optimized promotions and things like that.
Yeah, and that's one thing, right? Because usually you don't expect the guy to have such confidence that, just like the bowling, let's say the bowling owner, that he would like, oh, just have ChatGPT now. That's how he's going to expand. And the feeling that I get, and I feel like many people get, is that, wait, if he has access to the same AI that I have, what am I doing wrong? Because I don't have all that confidence. I don't have, let's say 150 specialized AI agents helping me in every single part of my job. What's a realistic first step for, let's say, someone in a position of leadership in a company to actually leverage their AI use until they get something like that confidence, until they see like, okay, I have, let's say, really, really many solutions at the tip of my fingers.
Yeah, my advice is, I think first you need to think about, forget AI, right? First, you need to think about like, what are the business problems you've had that have been very hard to solve, right? Like, I'm unable to forecast my demand for products accurately, or I'm unable to predict what my customer is going to buy, so I don't know what to show them, right? So there is a business, like, what are the impossible business problems that you've had a hard time solving, right?
That makes sense.
So you start
Breaking
with
down
that.
those problems.
Yeah, you start with that, right? And you make a list of that. And then you start doing a little bit of research, like, hey, what kind of, like, when I read online, like, is AI helping with any of these problems, right? Like, just try to figure out, okay, if I forecast better, what does that mean? Like, if I have fewer things that I have to put in the warehouse, maybe my cost of storage is better, or maybe my customer satisfaction is better because I always have the product. Or maybe if I'm able to, for example, right, Amazon, it recommends products to customers, right? Like 33% of purchases are based on recommendations, right? So I just increased my sales by 33%. So you do some research on like, hey, now that I know my top challenges and problems and needs, how do I figure out if this problem was to go away, or if this need was to be solved, what kind of ROI can I expect, right? If my sales is going to be higher by 33%, that's great, right? Then I'm going to go solve that problem, right? And then you can start evaluating, okay, who's the right vendor who can help me with this, and all of that. But it has to start with your business need, business problem first, and then trying to identify where is the biggest opportunity for you to make amazing improvements in your business. I can guarantee you there's an AI solution that will solve every problem. No question about it. Is that the most important problem for you? And does it actually give you so much of a business advantage that you need to invest in it, right? That's the question. Because it does take time investment. You have to invest money and all of that, right? So you need to spend time and money on it. And that's a good starting point, right? I would say that's the way I would go about looking at this.
Yeah. And the way you say it, it really translates to me, let's say that if you think about the specific skills that you would need to develop for the next 3 years, it's more than, let's say, I have to be, as before when mobile went off, people were like, oh no, you have to know how to code. Coding is the future. You got to know how to, to program. But you're saying that as a business point of view, it adds more value to where I am if I actually have other kind of skills, let's say more managerial kind of skills of identifying problems, finding solutions and trying to, choosing different providers, suppliers, AI suppliers, because the competition is so big. You have all kinds of solutions for all kinds of problems already in such a small span of time. I would assume it kind of grows a little bit more before one big AI actually manages to encapsulate all these solutions. But what other skills would you say it's good for executives and leadership to prioritize now, so they can leverage AI on the next couple and other 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, Gabriel, I have my thoughts, but maybe you want to take a stab a little bit at this because you've been helping folks with education and courses and training and all of that. So I'll let you take a stab first.
Okay, good. So basically, when you talk about skills, first thing is like I always talking about being proactive. So like, see what problems you have, be able to classify these problems, to measure ROI about each solution you're going to develop, to see if the problem you are trying to tackle is really a problem, So if I was going to talk about like human skills, first, be proactive, like be be someone that likes to discover new stuff. So like check the internet, study a bit about AI, check what are the solutions that are coming, and so on. I would also recommend people to check the news about AI, check the news about basically about AIs, about new models, about new products, and so on. I think in general that's it. I don't know exactly what I could like say about people's skills in terms of like
it's not even just people's skills, right? It's all kinds of skills that you think people could use, right?
Yeah, I would say, right, like the most important skill is very simple now, right? They call it prompt engineering, but it's basically just philosophy, right? Can you ask questions in the right way? Can you ask the right question? That is prompt engineering. It's like philosophy, right? You need to know how to ask the right question to get the answer you want. That's the only skill you need now, right? If you can take a big problem and break it down into 25 questions, you will get the answer.
Yeah.
Right? So what is the question you need to ask to get the answer?
I was talking to Marcel about it. Marcel is a really smart guy who works on Rapid Canvas also. And he basically said that he was talking to the IBM chairman or something like that. And she said something really interesting, that before you had to know the answer for the questions. And now you need to know the questions you need to ask, because now you have the answers, right? And now you need to learn how to do good questions. So that's the point.
That's I'm even writing down. You have to know the answers. No, you have to know the questions, not the answers. Because I feel like that's it. And one of the things that I learned when I was doing a course in Georgetown, we had a class there specifically. It was during COVID. It was that I was there in Washington when COVID broke out, and we had a simple question, just about asking questions. And they made this pyramid of questions. It's like the one on top is the why, because it's the question, the most open-ended questions, and then you go for the how, and then the lowest ones were like which, because it's very specific, it's very yes or no. When it's basically a selection of, it narrows things down and others open things up. What kind of strategies for prompt engineering do you use yourselves that other people can learn from?
I think for me, the beauty of prompt engineering is also you can have personas, right?
What do you mean by that?
Like if I want to write an email, right? I can just say, hey, I'm trying to write an email to explain this concept to someone. That would be the simplest form, right? And tell me how to write this email. But with the LLMs, you can have persona saying, hey, I am writing this email to a technology executive in this country, right, with this background and this experience. And I am this person with this background and this experience and this skill set. Those two emails are going to be very different, right? Like when I just say without any qualification versus saying who is the receiver, who's the sender, now rewrite the email. Like literally you can have this context for the generative AI to generate stuff, right? Let's say you want to write a proposal. You can write a proposal to provide to your professor in college. You can write a proposal to provide to your manager. You can write a proposal as a salesperson to provide to a customer. These are all proposals about the same topic, but they will be very different depending on the context. So one of the big things about this prompt engineering is like, can you give as much specific context while you ask the question? Who is the receiver? Who's the sender? What is the information I should know? The more context you give, the better answer you're going to get to your question, right? So this qualification of what context should be required. And I think this is the number one skill. The more people get skilled at this, how to ask the right question. Should it be open-ended? Should it be specific? How to provide the context? Because it's just like you I'm asking you the question. Now you need a lot of information to answer my question. Similarly, chat generative AI needs a lot of information to answer that question accurately or give you the correct answer. If you don't give enough context, what you get is hallucination. Hallucination is not the wrong answer. It just does not have enough specificity to give you a good answer, right?
Yeah, hallucination is a possible answer, right? That's the point.
Yeah, it's a possible answer. So it is one of many answers you can get. It's just not the one you were expecting. So now you need to give more context so you can get more and more specific, right? So exactly what you're saying, right? Going down that pyramid, this is the skill of the future. Is like, are you able to get the answer you want by providing the context and asking the right questions? Sometimes it's an open-ended, sometimes it's a specific, all of that, right? Like that's the beauty of this whole generative AI agents and everything.
Man, there's one point before, like prompting is like organize your thoughts. So break your task in your mind, organize it step by step. Because basically what Raul is saying, he's basically writing a really clear prompt, right? So he organized his thought, he organized his ideas, and he put all of that in step by step in the prompt in a clear way, right? So writing clear prompts will lead you to good answers. Writing messy prompts will lead you to hallucinations and things like that. But before that, before writing a good prompt, you need to like organize your thoughts. You need to have in mind what you want to type, right? What you want to do. The one point is that most of people just get in front of ChatGPT and starting throwing a lot of like crazy and messy stuff, you know? And then they want ChatGPT to have some kind of magic inside of it and just like get what they're trying to say. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't, and that's it.
Yeah, so it's a funny thing because it comes to my mind that basically to excel at let's say using an AI, you go back to the classical education almost. You know, you have to understand logic, you have to be good at writing, you have to be good maybe at speaking in the future also, because you know not all AIs you can just interface writing. Some you can interface speaking. I've tried the GPT one while I'm on the car. I'm driving, and I just pop in the GPT and I go ask him questions, and he answers me, and he even breathes like while he's talking. So it's very good. Man, it's very good.
Yeah, we are getting back to Athena's school, you know, in Greece.
Yeah, ask questions, you know, study philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it's like philosophy that leads you to somewhere, right? That's the point.
So I mean, think of it almost like the generative AI is a layer of communication that simplifies your access to all kinds of actions and information and all of that. Right now, it has taken the rest of all the information and made it accessible to you. Only thing you need to learn is like, how do you access that efficiently, right? What are the things how do you need to prepare for asking the right question? How do you ask the right question? How do you ask the follow-up questions, right? Those are the most important things. What if you get a wrong answer? How should you reframe your question? Those are the most important things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because that's going to guide your experience with any AI that you use, be it Chinese AI, American AI, Indian AI. Is India on the race, the AI race? Like, do they have like their own?
And the only thing I know about the race is nobody knows what tomorrow will bring, and suddenly something comes up from somewhere, and it's like, you know. So I would not rule anything out from anywhere. It could come from Brazil, it could come from India, it could come from Africa. If right now all you need is smart people,
maybe it can come from Djibouti, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's very interesting. And let's say our closing remarks here. I don't know if you guys want to add anything, but what do you guys have to say? Let's say regarding AI to business men and women here in Brazil, and also executives, people who want to transition careers, everyone who you think is actually studying here to be a better person, is dedicating, let's say at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, trying to learn more about AI, trying to differentiate themselves. What kind of message do you have to these kind of people?
Gabriel, you can talk about the education first because you're in the midst of it.
No, man, I think you can talk about it first because
Yeah,
you're
it's
doing really
basically
well. Please.
counsel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you have so much experience in all of this AI stuff. I mean, like more than 20
And yet
years.
he doesn't call himself a technician, right? Technical. He doesn't say he's
No,
technical.
yeah.
Just co-founded a bunch of companies and not technical.
You
I'm
are the
lucky.
you're the shining master here.
I'm lucky. Let's put it that way. but what I would say is like, look, there is a personal capacity of like learning prompt engineering, basics of AI, doing some, self-edu. The other thing is like online education. Anybody can learn anything. You don't have to go to college anymore. You don't have to go to a classroom anymore, right? So try to pick up on the trends and learn as much as possible from a personal standpoint. Now, if you're in charge of a business, let's say there's a company of like 300 people, even if it's 300 people, 200 people, whatever, right? Like few hundred million reais in business, you have a responsibility to have a level of sophistication in your AI because your problems are not as straightforward as generating a logo, right?
Mhm.
In that case, do talk to experts, right? People like Gabriel, people who are, adept at implementing uh, AI for business, AI for enterprise, AI for corporations. Because even that has gotten very much cheaper, faster, better than what it used to be even like 2 years ago, right? So if you're solving a hard business problem, um, I would say talk to an expert. Again, treat it in the way understand how should you frame the problem, how should you break down the problem, all of that, and then you can go about implementing it with tools like Rapid Canvas, right, which are very simple to use. But I think understanding how to frame the problem, understanding how to break it down, understanding how to solution for it, I think those are important steps, and this
Could
is
you
where experts.
could you tell a little? There's two questions. First one, does the AI count as the expert I'm going to talk to? And secondly, the would you talk a little bit more about how Rapid Canvas how it works, so we could, actually, is it B2C? Is it only B2B? Can I go on there, Rapid Canvas, and bring about a solution?
Yeah, so AI can be an expert for sure. You can ask any question, it can give you
Uh-huh.
an answer. So that part, you don't have to rely always on humans. The only question becomes, do you know if you got the right answer? And for simple problems that you know the answer, right? If you want to write an email, you know how it looks when it's done, great. If you're trying to build a forecasting model, you don't know if that forecasting model is the right model, right? So there, unless you have a sense of validating if the model is the right one, you need an expert, like a human expert. I'm
Fair
sure
enough.
like 2 years
He can
from
ask
now,
the right questions.
yeah. So 2 years from now, you may not even need that because like the agents will get smart enough to even guide you towards the right answer, even if you don't know if the answer is right, right? But today you do need experts. Um, Rapid Canvas has kind of two primary users. One is someone like Gabriel who can, it took him, let's say, 9 months to build an AI solution 5 years ago. Now he can build it in like 3 days, right? So Rapid Canvas makes it easy for him to deliver something really fast.
9 months when I was fast, right?
Yeah, when he's an expert. And for people who are not experts, you can use Rapid Canvas to also build stuff. But all you have to do is like ask Rapid Canvas in English. I'm trying to take two data files and combine them. Or I'm trying to take this combined data file and try to forecast with it. So you just are talking to Rapid Canvas in Portuguese or English, and it's going to create code based on what you said of how to implement that step in the data pipeline. And then slowly, you can build the entire data pipeline, the entire model, and entire output. Now, the reason I say we need people like Gabriel is because after you've built all of this, you're like, okay, I have a forecast. Is this right? Is this wrong? Like, how do I validate it? That's where people like Gabriel come in. It's like, okay, this is perfect, or this is almost there, 90% there, you need to do this 10% and you'll get there, right? So it's meant for both. It's meant for people like Gabriel to do things extremely fast, but it's also meant for people who have not done AI before because they couldn't code. Now they can just interact in Portuguese and the code is generated automatically.
I see. What about you, Gabriel? What are your closing remarks here on peoples and AI who are here at almost 9 p.m. on a Tuesday learning about AI?
Before Brazilian game against Argentina, right? We're going to have a Brazilian soccer game in like 5 minutes. So, well, first I think I would say is like study a bit about it. Try to understand what an AI powers, what you can do with it, right? How can you like change the way you make business with AI? But for that, you need to understand a bit about it. Because like any type of technology, when we talk about AI, you're going to see a bit about hype, right? But there's also a lot of reality behind of it. So study a bit about it, learn about it. Most of people are afraid about AI. So lose this, right? I mean, you don't need to be afraid about AI. AI is not going like to replace you, to take your job. If you learn AI, you're going to get like more efficient. You can get better jobs and work with nicer stuff. You're not going to have to copy and paste that spreadsheet every day, for instance. You're going to automate that and have time to like do things that have more value to your business. From my point of view, that's it.
AI is the closest thing so far we have from technological enhancement of your work. And let's say you don't have like something attached to you, but somehow enhances.
You're a normal human being. AI makes you Iron Man, right? You have all this suit and all this technology, and
I'm gonna leave the goatee.
Yeah,
Iron Man goatee.
Man,
but that's. Tell me.
No, I was going to tell you a history about a friend of mine that basically wrote a really nice text to his fiancée before he get married, right? He asked a ChatGPT to generate a really good text about saying how much he loves his wife and so on, and he sent it to her, and then she started crying and say, "Oh, this was the beautifulest thing you ever said to me," you know. So you see, it's even useful when you want like to make your wife happy or your fiancé happy.
True. That is true. Another use case, and I feel like that's the equivalent that you had before of asking your friend for help. Like, hey, I need help texting this girl. Could you help me here? But then you can't tell the girl that your friend helped you, right? Because otherwise you lose originality.
No, man, you can like ask the AI to chat with the girl, for instance.
Oh, actually,
and then
chatting the same conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you can put the AI to talk to the boy you want, to the girl you want, for instance, and then you just go to the date, right? And before going to the date, you ask the AI to make a summary about the conversation, and that's it. You're okay for the date.
Oh my God. Young people are up for a complex life.
Yeah.
Every time. I'm still waiting for the her to become a reality and people actually fall in love with AI.
It's already happening, right? If you check the news, you see that there are some people that falling in love with AI.
Wow. Well, I know that you guys daily fall in love with AI because you do it and work it every day. So thank you so much for your time. You're 1 hour here with us, with also students and also our invitees. People, feel free to fill in the let's say the presence list, so you can get your certificate of presence here and make this hour count on your studies. And Rahul and Gabriel, thank you so much for coming. And for all of you, I'm going to say this in Portuguese a little bit just to be sure, but para todos vocês que estão interessados em IA, que querem cada vez mais entender como isso é útil para você numa posição de liderança, para você conseguir não virar necessariamente um cara técnico, não virar um Gabriel ali que, cara, sabe fazer todas as coisas com IA, faz soluções para toda empresa, mas saber usar IA para conseguir ganhos reais no seu dia a dia. A gente está aqui com o Gabriel desenvolvendo um MBA em IA, que já depois a gente vai divulgar para vocês, mas para vocês ficarem por dentro que vai ser uma coisa muito interessante, que nos próximos...
bem bacana. Estamos trazendo uma galera fera, para galera de mercado mesmo, que aplica IA no dia a dia para participar das disciplinas, para tocar uma boa parte delas, inclusive.
Exatamente, exatamente. E aí você pode ter essas pessoas que vivem AI, não é a pessoa que vive de hype, não é a pessoa que está ali, leu uma vez, não, são pessoas que aplicam, são pessoas que implementam IA, são pessoas que já lidaram com, acho que a gente pode pensar até num número conjunto ali para ver quantas centenas de projetos todos vocês já resolveram, né, cara? Porque vai ser muito interessante isso.
Cara, a gente vai estar preparando para esse MBA aí mais de 30 projetos que a gente vai falar sobre, projetos práticos, projetos que deram certo, projetos que deram errado, e como usar diversas dessas tecnologias, como o Rapid Canvas, por exemplo, para trazer ganhos reais aí para os business de vocês e para ajudar a alavancar a carreira de vocês também nessa nova era, nessa nova revolução tecnológica.
Perfeito. E aí, a gente até trouxe aqui ninguém mais nada menos que o CEO da Rapid Canvas, o Rahul, para falar diretamente com vocês o que é ele que está lá, cara, nos Estados Unidos, ali naquele vai e vem de todo mundo falando de IA, todo mundo falando dessa parte de solução, ele, pô, de tecnologia, já trabalhou no PayPal, fez uma empresa que foi vendida para o PayPal, trabalhou na Google, trabalhou em todas essas grandes empresas, para ele mostrar para vocês a visão dele, para ele mostrar o que o pessoal lá fora está falando, o que eles esperam de IA, e como ele já vê aí, cara, todos esses milhares de clientes dele pelo mundo usando IA para resolver problemas reais. Então, mais uma vez, muito obrigado. Eu já vi agora que o Yuri conseguiu entrar ali na lista de presença. Valeu, Yuri. Vocês, outras pessoas aí que tiverem também, obrigado pela presença. E na próxima nos falamos. Muito obrigado.
Obrigado.
All right.